Hello, this is Ron Paul with your weekly update for Monday, January 16th. This week, Congress passed a budget increasing federal spending and adding $1.7 trillion to the national debt. Most so-called fiscal conservatives voted for this big spending budget because it allows Congress to repeal some parts of Obamacare via reconciliation. As important as it is to repeal Obamacare, it does not justify increasing spending and debt. It's disappointing but not surprising that the Obamacare repeal would be used to justify increasing spending. Despite sequestration, minor and largely phony spending cuts, federal spending has increased every year since Republicans took control of the House of Representatives. Some will attribute this to the fact that the Republican House had to negotiate with a big spending Democratic president, even though federal spending actually increased by a greater percentage than the last time Republicans controlled the White House and Congress than it did under President Obama. The history of massive spending increases under unified Republican control of government is likely to repeat itself. During the presidential campaign, President-elect Donald Trump came out against reducing spending on entitlements. He also called for a variety of spending increases, including spending $1 trillion on infrastructure. One positive part of the infrastructure proposal is their use of tax credits to encourage private sector investments. Hopefully, this will be the first step toward returning responsibility for building and maintaining our nation's infrastructure to the private sector. Unfortunately, the administration appears likely to support increased federal spending for on shovel-ready jobs. Claims that federal spending helps grow the economy rely on the fallacy of that which is not seen. While everyone sees the jobs and economic growth created by the government infrastructure projects, no one sees the greater number of jobs that could have been created had the government not taken the resources out of the hands of private business, investors, and entrepreneurs. Despite what some conservatives seem to think, this fallacy applies equally to Republicans and Democrats. The fact is, the United States already spends too much on militarism. Not only does the United States spend more on the military than the combined military budget of the next 8 highest spending countries, but Pentagon waste exceeds the total Russian military. America can no longer afford to waste trillions of dollars on militaristic foreign policy. Donald Trump should follow up his attacks on wasteful military spending by dramatically changing our foreign policy and working to cut the Pentagon's bloated budget. Fed action can only delay the inevitable day of reckoning. Raising levels of federal spending and debt will inevitably lead to a major economic crisis. This crisis is likely to be reached when concerns over our national debt cause more countries to reject the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. The only way to avoid this crisis is to stop increasing spending and instead begin reducing spending on all aspects of the welfare warfare state. Thanks for calling this update. A new update is placed on this number, 888-322-1414, every Sunday. The written text can be found on my Ron Paul Institute website at www.ronpaulinstitute.org and on my Facebook page. Thanks for calling.